It would seem Egypt is at all-out war with an unknown enemy. While the military junta's Operation Eagle continues to spread its forces and weaponry throughout northern Sinai, the attackers, who the government claims remain at large, have yet to be seen. Their attacks on military police checkpoints, random and minuscule compared to the army deployed to crush them. After shootouts at 5 checkpoints following the border violence, the El Arish hospital was bustling with people. None of them seemed to be family members of the injured, nor had anyone seen the bodies of the 20 assailants the military claimed to have killed the night before. At first, this army officer prevents us from shooting. He instructs his soldiers to ready themselves for the camera. The army officer then guides us around the hospital. The people he takes us to interview express their pro-military bias and support the air and ground operation.
بعد الثورة بدأت الحاجات ديت كلها احنا كنا في امان فعلا يعني.
والله العظيم انا عايز الشرطة تنزل بكل قوة والله. احنا عايزين كده. انا اتمنى ان البلد تنضف فعلا. احنا عايزين كده.
Many here believe what the government is telling them. The culprits are Islamist militants. But one of our guides tells us weapons training in the desert is common. This is a video of his 6-year-old son preparing a Kalashnikov rifle and firing it into the Sinai sand dunes. By Thursday, army vehicles, anti-aircraft weaponry, tanks, and ammunition carriers had settled into the towns leading toward the Rafah border. The airstrikes and mass deployment into the Sinai Peninsula was the first since Egypt's 1973 war with Israel. Israel once occupied the Sinai Peninsula. Signs of its 15-year occupation are still visible throughout Rafah's villages. Operation Eagle has also benefited the Israelis via the Gaza Strip. Egypt closed down its border to Gaza and began dismantling the hundreds of tunnels aiding Palestinians into the besieged territory. Israel applauded the Egyptian military for hunting down the so-called terrorists supposedly threatening the politically sensitive border region. This is one of the back roads that runs just parallel to the main road leading toward the Rafah border between Egypt and Gaza. We're right now heading toward the tunnels on the Egyptian side, which have been reported to have been destroyed by the Egyptian army. Now, as you can see, it's a vast area where the tunnels are located, and you can actually see Gaza from where we are driving. We're seeing a number of stores open, and they're selling building supplies, cement. These are a number of the utensils that go underneath the Gaza tunnels. It's essentially where we are is a ghost town. There's nothing else here functioning other than what's supplying the 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza with the supplies they need. A vast amount of commerce in this area. Dozens of tunnels run underneath these buildings. Hundreds of tunnels scatter the underground area. So actually, this is a friend of ours' home. Her uncle used to live here. And as you can see, this smashed-in area down here was once one of the tunnels leading into Gaza. And if you turn to this room in here, this whole area caved in as a result of one of the tunnels falling apart. But you can see that just down this way, this area here is leading into Gaza.
كل الأنفاق دلوقتي في البيوت، بس دلوقتي علشان ما فيش حكومة، ما فيش جيش، ما فيش أي حاجة، وبعد الثورة كل الدنيا زادت وكل الدنيا بقت ما حدش خايف من حد. الحكومة لو حد اتكلم بيضربوها بالنار.
The tunnels that lead into Gaza are no secret here in Egypt. And as you can see, this is just the Rafah border on the Gaza side. So I'm standing here in Egypt, and you can see these tents over here. Those are tents inside of Gaza along the Rafah border. It's reported that 70% of Gaza's economy depends heavily on these tunnels. President Mohammed Morsi closed down the border between Gaza and Israel after opening it 12 hours a day just 2 weeks ago. So you can imagine, just a couple last week, Palestinians were able to enter this border with very little hassle from the Egyptian authorities. Now that border is shut down and Palestinians are not able to get into Egypt legally, and so the illegal method in which they're able to cross is now also being dismantled. Egyptian border guards keep patrol along the border wall. Residents say most of the homes in front of the border guards have tunnels on their ground level. This man we talked to is pro-military and supports the government's manhunt for the assailants. What he doesn't tell us in the interview is that in the room next door is a tunnel leading into the Gaza Strip. He insists only building supplies and food go through. While the state media hyped up the attacks in Sinai, some residents believe the buildup is creating the illusion of an attack. On Friday, the Egyptian government temporarily reopened the Rafah border for 2 hours to allow thousands of Palestinians stranded at the border to enter into the besieged Gaza Strip. Also stranded, nearly 1,000 Palestinian patients waiting to enter the Egyptian border. The military junta announced the operation a success and said the army will continue to man the region until the so-called terrorists are captured. Despite the troop buildup and the military show of force here, residents still complain of lawlessness and instability.
ما فيش أمان ما فيش غاز في البيوت لسه ما ساعدونا في حاجة المية عطشانين وحياة ربنا.
While Operation Eagle intensifies in the Sinai Peninsula, life goes on as normal for those living in this border region. For many, it would seem the daily struggle for survival is more threatening than the unknown enemy the government is currently fighting. Jahan Hafiz for The Real News, reporting from northern Sinai, Egypt.